With this, we would move on to the problem number 2, which is nominal and real GDP. What is the difference between real and nominal GDP? We can say that here the nominal GDP is the sum of all final goods valued at current prices, the price of the considered period. So if we are considering a time period T, and if we have a price at that time period T, the value of final goods considered at that specific price is called the nominal GDP. The real GDP, on the other hand, is the sum of all final goods valued at a constant price. So the constant price is selected as a price from a base year, and the real GDP is calculated by considering only this base price. Problem number 2.2 is regarding the different growth rates of nominal and real GDP. The question says, why does the nominal GDP increase over time? Name 2 different reasons and make reference to the figure below. As you can see from this figure, the blue line represents the nominal GDP growth rate. The black line represents the real GDP growth rate. On the y-axis, you have the growth rate in percentage, and on the x-axis, you have the year or the time period. As you can see, nominal GDP is a bit higher than the real GDP, and the question is, why does the nominal GDP increase over time? Name 2 different reasons. We have said nominal GDP is the value of final goods at the current price. So this definition gives an overview of 2 variables here, the quantity of goods and the price of goods at the time period. So if the quantity of goods increase over time, or if the price of goods increase over time, since these 2 variables define the nominal GDP would increase. When we come to real GDP, it only changes when the quantities of goods change. So as you have seen from the graph, the growth rate of nominal GDP is usually higher than the growth rate of the real GDP. The difference between the growth rate can be explained by the change in price or different inflation rates. The final exercise of session 1 is price indices. So the question says, what are 2 common price indices used in practice to calculate the inflation rate? What is the main difference between them? The 2 common price indices used in economics to calculate inflation rate are GDP deflator and consumer price index. The GDP deflator is a measure of prices of all final goods which are used to calculate the GDP. On the other hand, the consumer price index, as the name indicates, it measures prices of consumption goods which are sold to consumers or households. So basically, the development over time of these both indices are more or less very similar. The final exercise in this session is to calculate inflation rate. Calculate the inflation rate from 2008 to 2011 by using the table below. So what do we mean by inflation? So price at time t is equal to price at t minus 1 plus price t minus 1 multiplied by inflation. So when we say price t, price t minus 1 as a common, we would have 1 plus inflation at t. So this is to say, inflation at time period t is dependent on the price level of the previous time period. So if we divide both sides by t minus 1, we would get price at time t divided by price t minus 1 is equal to 1 plus inflation at time t. And if we subtract 1 from both sides, we would have price t divided by price t minus 1 minus 1 is equal to the inflation rate at t. Rewriting this left-hand side equation would finally give us a formula which says inflation at time t is equal to price at t minus price at t minus 1 divided by price at t minus 1. So t here is to indicate the time period. So if I say t is the year 2008, then our t minus 1 would be the year 2007. With this calculation, we can move on to identify the inflation rate at each period from 2008 to 2011 by using the information that we have received in the exercise. So we had year, and we had price index. In 2007, it was 100. In 2008, it was 102. In 2009, it was again 102. In 2010, it was 99. And finally, in 2011, it was 101. So using the formula that we just see, the inflation at 2008 is represented by price at 2008 minus price at the year 2007 divided by price the year 2007. This is again to say from our table here, price at 2008 was 102 and price at 2007 was 100 divided by 100. And this is approximately 0.2, which is again to say the inflation rate at 2008 was 2%. Using this similar approach, we can also calculate for 2009, which would be calculated as price at 2009 minus our t minus 1 would be here price at 2008 divided by price at 2008. In this case, we had 102 in 2009 minus 102 in 2008 divided by 102, which would give us 0, and we can say inflation at 2009 was 0%. Inflation at 2010 can be calculated as price at 2010 minus price at t minus 1 would be 2009 divided by the p 2009. Again, filling out the values from our table, 99 minus 102 divided by 102 is approximately minus 0.33, which would be interpreted as minus 3%. The final inflation is the inflation at 2011, which is represented by price at 2011 minus price at 2010 divided by price at 2010. Filling out the values from our table, 101 minus 99 divided by 99 is approximately 0.02, which makes us say that the price at 2011 was 2%. So with this, we would conclude the first session of macroeconomics. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, please do send us an email.